Okay, good morning again, Roletta. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your extremely busy schedule to be here with me. For those of you that know me, you guys should know that this was coming. I would not do anything without having her involved. Roletta and I have been friends since we basically started primary school, and that friendship would have progressed throughout our lives from primary to high school to university, and here we are. So, Rawletta Barrow is 22 years old. She recently graduated from the University of the West Indies Cape Hill campus with a bachelor's degree in law. Congratulations, Rawletta.
Thank
Can
you.
you further introduce yourself to everyone so they can have a feel of who you are and why you're here?
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me, Delisa. It's such a pleasure to be here. As you said, I'm a law student. I um
Mhm.
I just finished my bachelor's and I'm currently about to pursue my master's. I'm also a youth advocate, and generally I love to advocate for issues relating to young people in my capacity
Mhm.
as a youth ambassador attached to the US Department of State alumni. So, yeah, basically that's it. Any further questions that you have, I guess we'll just get into that.
Okay, and I think she's being a bit modest. So, to further add, Rolex was also our 2022 Rhodes Scholar. Such a position. So, can you walk us through that? Can you walk us through from primary to high to university? So, you're finally deciding to applying for that application and succeeding with that application also.
But yes, so yeah, definitely. I I wouldn't say that the roads was something that I had always planned because I didn't plan it.
Yeah.
Um, it was just, I was just thinking of scholarship options for a master's degree, and it was one of the options that popped up, and I just took that leap of faith and
Mhm.
I decided to apply for it, which I encourage everyone to do. That was like a life lesson for me because I really, really, really thought, okay, I'm never gonna get this. I am never gonna get this. There's so many amazing people, even though I always do well in school and stuff. There's all of these amazing people all across the Caribbean region, studying all
Mhm.
across the world, and there's a very small chance that I will get it just hearing about it, not having much preparation. But I took that leap of faith and I'm so grateful that I did. So now I encourage anyone, if you're thinking of something, that, if you have a goal and you're thinking to yourself, oh, I can't do this, never, give up. Try. It's always better to try and fail than to never try at all. Yep. So, well, from primary, I guess I would say that um, primary school to secondary school was good for me. I think that that transition was pretty smooth because as a child, you have basically your parents guiding you through, and I had very good support system, which was
Mhm.
good. And then I guess secondary to university would have been a harder transition. And a lot of young people have a harder transition with because you're moving from kind of childhood to adulthood at the same time.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of blossom and become independent as you're navigating this whole transition and making all of these decisions, which everyone is telling you is going to be a big determining factor for the rest of your life, which not
Mhm.
necessarily, when you're deciding what to do with after high school, whether it's work or university or anything else, you have all of the time in the world to change your mind or make a decision, but it doesn't feel like that all of the time.
Yeah.
But then,
Mhm.
okay, I wouldn't say you have all of the time in the world again because not everyone has that opportunity because
Yeah.
there are some people that may not have, the financial resources to say, okay, I'm just going to be able to start this degree, then switch to another degree, or I'm just going to be able to not get a job now and take a gap year. So not everyone um can just say, okay, I'll make this decision whenever I want to. But I will still say, do not be too hard on yourself. Things may seem impossible, but they will work out in the end.
Yeah, I felt that part where he said that your transition from the high school to university is probably one of the hardest things that you would have to do. But I would say a lot of persons would ask questions or ask, how I would recommend if they should just do sixth form or go straight to the university. And my advice to anybody would be if you feel like within yourself you need to go through a period of growth, do sixth form. Sixth form allows you to understand what it is. I mean, you're not going to figure everything out right away, but some people, it helps them to understand where they want to go in life, right? What are they going to do? Because that's the testing period. It starts, you're doing, like, it's probably like law, business, or science, right? I think they offer logistics also at sixth form, according to the schools. But while you're there, you start to realize, okay, maybe this is not for me. Maybe this is the area I want to get into. And at that point, you're socializing a lot with so many different persons. And you start to realize that there are so many other options for you. And that's the beauty about going to sixth form. I also went through that period where I felt like, and I said this in an episode beforehand, I felt like my life was starting to fall apart because I went through primary, high school, secondary, well, most part of secondary, thinking that I was going to do law. And I did law. And then I realized that I couldn't handle it. So kudos to you. I'm extremely proud of you for sticking to it. But I realized that it just wasn't for me. It wasn't my calling. It definitely was not my purpose. I liked it, but I wasn't passionate about it. I knew that I loved politics. I absolutely love interacting with new people and finding out about different cultures and talking about global issues and ranting about global issues. So I just knew that being there, doing cases, on a daily basis, being in court and practicing just was not the route that I wanted to take. And at that point, I wasn't sure where I was going to go because I had no idea about international relations. My first thought was political science. And yeah, we've had a few conversations about this, and I was stuck on political science. And then I had applied to the University of Ghana, and they did not have a political science degree. So imagine how much more stressed I was. I'm like, oh my God, I've got to figure out what else am I going to do? Like, I thought political science was it for me, and they don't have it here. And so we had attended the University of Ghana's open day, and the Faculty of Social Sciences, I believe the international relations students, they had a booth. And they were talking about all of the things that IR offers. And one thing that stood out to me was the foreign language aspect, that I had to do a foreign language. And you, more than anybody, knows that I am so afraid of anything that has to do with a foreign language. I was like, oh my God, I've got to do Spanish or French. I don't know how I'm going to function here. And that was about 8 credits on that course. So if you failed it, your GPA was probably going to tank. And I said, you know what, I'm going to apply. And I applied, and I do not regret that decision. That was probably the best thing that I would have done during that space of time. But as you said, whatever it is that you want to do, it's going to take time. It doesn't come right away. It takes a lot of finding and searching in yourself to understand what is it that you like, what you love, and then a lot of times you're influenced by the persons around you. We're socialized to believe that, well, at our age, at that point in primary school, it's either you become a lawyer, a doctor, or a teacher. There was no around it. We didn't know about any other, or if you wanted to get into carpentry or trade, that was it. So all these other opportunities that are available now, like petroleum engineering, graphic designing, so many different things are available now. We didn't know about all of that when we were growing up. So I really like that society is becoming ever evolving, which means that the basket of opportunities, there's so much more,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
as generations evolve, more things are gonna happen. Like social media influencing is now a big market for persons. Like they get into, they get paid for
for
these
sure.
things, to putting their lives out there, being candid about things that are going on. So that brings me to the next question. how did you realize what your purpose was?
Well, I think that I wouldn't say that I've 100% figured out what my purpose is,
Hmm.
but I think that it all lied with where I was most passionate, what drove me, what made me feel excited when I thought
Yeah,
about doing this every day for the rest of my life. As you said, with political science or international, well, politics in general, you
yeah,
were passionate about that, right? And you felt that I can do this every day for the rest of my life if need be, and it wouldn't feel like work. And I think that's how you find your passion. And it was also a combination of what I felt I was good at. So like in school, I opted not to go into the science stream and I went into the art stream because I really felt like I was much better at humanities subjects, which
yeah,
allowed me to, like really express myself and do a lot more analytical thinking. So that was just, where I felt happy. Which was kind of like disconcerting to my to my family because they're like, "Oh my gosh, you should do science. Even if you want to be a
yeah.
lawyer, you should still do science
Hmm.
because you can do anything with science. If you change your mind, you can still do
Yeah,
law." But I just wouldn't feel happy doing those subjects. And I'm all about prioritize. I'm very stubborn. I'm all about prioritizing my happiness. So I just ignored everyone and I decided to do humanities and I did law and I really like law, still love
hmm,
law, but I have evolved to a point where I don't think that I want to practice law in the traditional sense. So
yeah,
I'm really more drawn to like research and I'm really more drawn now, I think, to policy making. And I think that that has come from, you know, volunteering and being a youth ambassador and planning projects and like kind of watching how you can like have an idea and implement it and make an impact on the lives of large amounts of people and really make a positive change in the world through that lens. And so I'm really looking as I move forward to try to combine my passion for law and my passion for, well, change making, I would call it.
yes,
So that's where what the future kind of holds for me, but what that looks like exactly, sometimes it can be unclear, but
yes.
I know exactly, I guess, the general direction of where I want to go, and I'll know the perfect job for me when I find it.
Yeah. I, I think I understand. I definitely understand where you're coming from. It can seem a bit hazy sometimes because in one minute you'll think, okay, I definitely know what I'm gonna do, right? And then days
Yeah.
will pass, or we'll get an exam and it starts to stress us out, and we're like, okay, I don't think this is the direction for me. Like, you love it, and then in that moment, it's like, okay, am I second guessing what it is that I want to do? Is this okay for me? Is this where I need to head? And yeah, it starts to get
Yeah.
jumbled sometimes. But in the sense of us speaking about studies, how was that transitioned from in-person learning to virtual classes before you would have graduated in your final year?
Well, I basically spent the whole second semester of my first year, well, part of the second semester of my first year,
Mhm.
my entire second and third year online. So the
Yeah.
basically I only had one in-person semester for my entire bachelor's degree. So, well, I will say at first it was kind of nice. It was kind of nice not to have
Hmm.
to like get up and go outside every day, go to classes every day, sit in a classroom every day. And you can be listening to a lecture, you can be doing something else, it was kind of comfortable at first, which I think everyone felt. It felt kind of like a sigh of relief, but
Yeah.
it was happening in the midst of COVID. where you weren't getting to go outside at all. You weren't getting to interact with anyone. So it was kind of like you were socially kind of like starved, I would say. And
Yeah,
that really could take a toll on your mental health, which I know this is what your platform is about. So
yeah,
I I would say that after like the first couple months or so of online learning, that's when I really, really started to crave the in-person social experience of just not even just friends, just talking to your lecturers or your tutors and like having a face-to-face conversation, being able to ask a question like and look the person directly in the eyes as they answer you. That it's so surreal how we don't notice how these little things
are
can ju-
important.
can just make a huge difference. But they it really really transforms like how you learn, and I feel like the motivation to go to class online was just dwindling after a while, and it was so hard because it's like when I was in Barbados in my room, it was just like my bed, my desk. So it was like you're from your bed, you move to your desk. Like there's no like dynamism in your environment. It's just everything is just so static, and it kind of makes you feel static yourself. So you feel kind of, you know, I
Withdrawn or
yeah, you kind of feel down, and I think that it was a shared experience among many students. So
yeah,
after a while, we were all craving just, going back to
mhm,
class.
yeah,
So it definitely can be damaging to your mental health. And if I think you already suffer from mental health issues, it can be even worse and exacerbated social isolation. So what I tried to do was I tried to, utilize social networks and all of my platforms like this, like Zoom and stuff, as much as possible with my friends. We have like online study groups where we can talk and chat and kind of like encourage each other through that difficult time, which is important. It's important to, build that community and find that sense of community. And if you're new starting out university with online learning, I would really suggest like try your best to reach out and get integrated into the online community because it allows you to feel like you're not alone in the entire experience. And that in itself is so wonderful just to feel like, okay, I'm not alone. And you can joke about it and laugh about it, and it just makes everything much more bearable.
yeah. That period, so I have really, really bad anxiety. And that was
Mhm.
something I realized early, I think, since as a child, but I think you don't really understand what it is until you get older and you
Yep.
start
Yep.
researching and you read for yourself. So when COVID happened, we moved from in-person classes at UG to online classes. And that was really hard for me because as a student, I learn better in person. Like I need to actively be there to understand what it is that's going on. So for the first few weeks, like I was really happy. I'm like, okay, I don't have to leave my house. I can stay at home and I can do this. And that's an introvert's dream. I was so happy about that. But as the weeks progressed and I started to realize, okay, well, this is just not working for me because you're in the comfort of your bedroom. That was, I mean, some persons did not use their room. They probably had designated areas. But for me, I'm speaking on personal experience. I would have used my bedroom to join classes. And I found that I was always asleep, or I just didn't remember that I had classes and I was missing a lot. And I am kind of a perfectionist when it comes to my grades. So it's not that I was doing bad, but when you've got an idea in your head as to what you want to accomplish per year and it's not getting there, it starts to become frustrating. And that was the frustrating part for me because we had a lot of group assignments. And I think you understand what I mean. Group assignments are the worst, having to deal with people, and then everybody is kind of stressed going through this new, this new pandemic that the world has never seen before. And we're all scared of what's happening because if I was looking at the news a lot, and I'm seeing all of these cases going up, and then the cases in Guyana, they kept rising daily by hundreds. So I was taking that on, and then not being able to see my friends and not being able to go out, something as simple as the movies started stressing me out. Like I at that point realized that I was dealing with depression. And it was a bit more difficult for me because I'm usually the one my friends come to when they're dealing with their problems. And I have an answer to everything. But when it comes to you now, and you need to sit within yourself and say, okay,
Yeah.
well, something is not okay. I'm not fine. I'm starting to realize that I'm becoming sluggish and getting lazy. I just don't have the motivation to get up and do anything, you know? And my anxiety got so bad I felt like if I even left my house, something was gonna happen to me. It was so, so terrible. So to transition from that, and then I think we started to take advantage of social media and the apps that are available, like Discord, Zoom, Google Meets. So many different platforms were made available to us, and we started realizing that we could look at movies through Discord, share screens, and still have those conversations, but it wasn't the same, right? It wasn't the same because you're not in person, you're not interacting. It's like it puts a veil over reality
Yeah.
because it's like, okay, what is going on in the outside world? This is just not working. And it took me a really long time to adjust. It took pretty long period to adjust because you spent a year and a half online and I spent basically 2 full years on just social media. And I think my final year now is going to be online also. I've
Oh,
adjusted so much. I don't think that I can be back in person. I've gotten so accustomed to being here. My life
yeah.
is different. It's the difference in transitions. Like when it first started, it's like you couldn't see what life would look like on an online platform, studying for something that is so important to your future and overthinking, okay, what our grades are going to look like, what is social life going to look like? And now we've integrated everything. Like you can still go to the movies and come back home and just have a Discord call with your friends or do hybrid classes, which is both in person and online. And personally, I prefer online classes because I don't have to spend transportation money anymore. And I don't have to leave my house. I could just sit and do what I gotta do. But that period was a lot for me. And I do agree with what you said. It was a shared experience because straight across the board, every time I speak to somebody within our age group or even outside of it, everybody shares the same thought. Mental awareness during that point was at its peak. The conversation on mental health, mental awareness, and things that we can do to, raise awareness, it was at its highest point in terms of conversations. And I do feel like in the Caribbean that was necessary because as I would have said in a conversation beforehand with, I think it was Sita, we were saying that Caribbean parents had to understand during that space of time that your child coming to you to say that you're not okay needed to be the norm instead of the direct answer being, yeah, you're living in my house, you're not supposed to have problems, right? But to understand that we're all
Yeah.
human, we all deal with things differently, and we all process things differently. And I applaud our generation for being a bit more vocal about what it is that we're going through. Like, you'll probably find somebody in our age group telling you, no, I'm not going to go out because mentally I'm not there right now as opposed to
Yeah.
them just telling you, yeah, I don't feel like, we'll probably say, look, mentally, I'm not in the mood to socialize. I'm not trying to interact today. So I'll sit this one out. So that brings me to the next part. How instrumental was your social circle and your family in dealing with that curve that you had? Well, your mental health.
Well, as I said, my support system was everything during that time. I didn't have it for a period. I was home in Guyana, and it was my family that was there for me the entire time. It was such a blessing, but it was also difficult at times because navigating online school with my little sisters running and screaming all around the place, and everyone has something to do online, work and school, and then the internet. was going. And
Mhm.
then I have like my family's really big, very loud. I have no privacy, no quiet time. And it was frustrating at times, but I think that they also helped to keep me grounded and sane during that time where people were dying around us, people were getting sick. It was scary. And I don't think I would be comfortable being anywhere else but with them, like my
Yeah.
closest people, the people I love the most. So just having them there brought a sense of peace for me personally. And when I was in Barbados, my friends, well, my roommates, they were the ones that they were able to give me that sense of community as well. So I'm really, really grateful for that because I know not everyone has that. So that's why
Yeah.
I always encourage people to be that person for someone else. So I realized I was super, super, super bad at checking in on people I care about. So
Mhm.
I've for this year I'm trying to make a conscious effort to, like check in more and to, talk to my loved ones more and to, just be more engaged with them because we don't know how long we have each other for. So, and I think that was like a really important lesson that the pandemic taught us. So I'm really, really trying to like not get caught up in my own life and my work because I can be so much a workaholic, and I'm trying to build and keep my social networks strong.
Yeah. I I agree with what you would have said, and I think that you're as strong as your support system. You're as strong as the people that you have around you, and it's important to surround yourself with like-minded people who pour into you, right? Because when you're dealing with anything, sometimes they're the ones that realize it before you do. They start
Yeah.
to realize certain habits and they start to realize that you're withdrawing yourself a bit and they'll point it out. And then it's like,
Yeah.
when you're in silent moments, you're like, okay, so what were they talking about? Or they're probably crazy. And then you start to play it up and it's like, yeah, I probably do have a problem. Because like you said, likewise, I am terrible at communication.
Mhm.
I have a problem where messages for me, and I know there are memes around that say, oh, if somebody comes to tell you that they didn't see your message, it's probably a lie. It's not. I don't I don't remember. I never remember to reply. And because you're always on the go and there's always something to do sometimes, you might read a message and in your head, you're like, you know what? I'm gonna reply to it, and then something else happens, throws you off completely. Weeks goes by, months go by, and then you start scrolling, and it's like, oh my god, I didn't reply. You start to feel so bad about it, and more so now, it is so important for you to check in on your friends, check in on your family members because life is so short. You
Yeah.
never know when you're going to miss them. You don't know if the last conversation that you had with them would probably be the last ever. So take the time out to do your mental health check ins, do your regular check ins, if so. Find
Yeah.
out, even if it's not if not a call, just send a little message, say hi. You know what? I'm just checking in. Let them know that you're dear for them. Even if it's not a message, drop by sometimes. I'm always by Rawletta. Drop by sometimes and see how they're doing. Spend some time with your loved ones and have some quality time. So that's about it. I also wanted you to talk a bit more about the project that you would have done with the US Embassy, the mentorship project, which I think is so important to youths now, having persons that they can speak to within areas that they're trying to get into. And I applaud you for even establishing that. Like, that was such an amazing program. For the past 2 years, they've done it last year and this year. I was a part of it, had a great time. I made some amazing mentors. Major thank you to you guys for putting us on to Miss Shondell France. I 110% recommend her. So could you talk to us about what that project was, why it was so important to you to establish it, and what are the long-term goals from here on out that you have in terms of the scope of where it's headed?
Thank you for that question. Well, Project Jumpstart, as it's called, is a
Yes.
career mentorship program. That
Hmm.
the idea for the project really came to me just from personal experience of navigating that same transition we were talking about earlier, that end of high school, what to do next period that everyone goes through, and a lot of Guyanese young people in general don't have enough information.
Hmm.
So the idea was to match young people with a mentor in the career path that they are considering. So we
Hmm.
had overwhelming support, and with the help of the US Embassy, we had recruited the first time it was like over 50 mentors. Then this time we had over 70 mentors from very, very
Hmm.
diverse fields. So we had from mechanical engineering to art to teaching to dentistry to any field that you could possibly think about. We probably had it, biochemical engineering, law, of course, politics, of course, anything that you can think about. We had our qualified professionals, and they were each paired with one or a small group of mentees, and they were able to, have like sessions with them, answer all of their questions, anything that they might want to know about how to get into their career, how to pick the best option, how to navigate life while in the career, how to be successful. And for many people, I think it went one of two ways. It really reaffirmed that this is what I want to do and I'm passionate about this and I'm going to go forward and I have all of the information. Or for some, it was, oh, well, definitely I realize now that I don't want to do this and I probably need to reconsider my choices. So I think that it was a really, really successful initiative. In total, over the 2 years, it would have been about, I would say, 400 or 350 to 400 participants that we've had who have benefited from the program and who would have, shared with us. Some of them would have shared with us that they were able to find jobs through their mentors, they were able to find internship opportunities, they were able to find resources, and, they were able to get help applying to university. And it made the process 10 times easier, which is all that we were trying to do, just make life a little bit easier for these young people as they're navigating a point in their life that is extremely stressful and can be extremely hard on their mental health. And I think that it was really successful in its job. And for the future, we are hoping to kind of even expand
Hmm.
our not just our numbers and our career offerings, but maybe we're trying to expand like the phases of the program to probably include more practical elements as well, as instead of just the conversational sessions and the workshop. So
Hmm.
I'm really excited for this and I'm really passionate about it. So I'm super glad that I was able to share a little bit.
And T, I am extremely grateful to you guys and extremely grateful to your year's chapter for developing this initiative and allowing us the experience to have those conversations with mentors who are within our field. And I think it was so important because we'd formed a little conversation amongst ourselves between mentor and mentee. My mentor was Miss Shondell France, and we decided to do a breakfast interaction. And that was amazing because we got to see three different aspects of life. The other individual that was there, her name is Jana. She's now heading into sixth form. I'm in my final year, and Miss France is a established professional. So seeing that experience play out was absolutely amazing. So I thank you again for telling me about that project and, sharing me and giving me the advice that I should be a part of it because I did not regret it. So, in closing, Is there anything that you want to say, any advice that you want to give? The floor is yours before we head out.
I'm so happy to hear that you had a positive experience once again with Project Jumpstart. I guess in closing, what I guess people can take away from this conversation is
Mm-hmm.
that it's important to find kind of a balance,
Mm-hmm.
a work life. If you're a workaholic like me, or if you like to have too much fun, anything that you really like to do,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to find a balance, like a
Mm-hmm.
work-life balance.
Yeah.
And also, I would like to tell them to ensure that you plan for your
Mm-hmm.
future. Don't get too stressed out about having a strict plan, but you should
Mm-hmm.
have a general idea of what your
Very.
goals are and where you want to at this moment in time. And that could change, and that's completely okay. But
Mm-hmm.
always have a plan and always try to search for opportunities to help you to improve yourself and to help you to achieve these goals because it helps you to find a kind of a sense of peace and a sense of like calmness when you're able to say, okay, I have a general idea of what I can do if this doesn't work out, or I have a general idea of where I'm going next. So think about it, sit down, really reflect. It might be stressful at first, but I think that you can, once you settle on something that you're comfortable with, you'll be able to navigate this whole transition into adulthood much easier. And remember that no one has it all figured out, no matter how much they look like they do. And it's always okay to, find someone to talk to, find someone to reach out to, find someone to mentor you so that you'll
Yeah.
be able to better position yourself to achieve your goals.
Amazing advice. To further reiterate what you would have said, my closing remark is be kind to yourself. You don't have to have everything, all put together. As Roletta said, the most that you need is to figure out where you're heading. You don't have to be this perfect individual. Ensure that you check in. Your check-ins are important. Check in on your friends, check in on your family, even if it's not, as we said earlier, even if it's not a call, send a little text. Let them know that you're there, you're thinking about them. And thank you so much, Roletta, once again, for being here, for being a part of this. It was so important for me to have you here. And I wish you success in all of your future endeavors and good luck at Oxford. I know that you'll do amazing